Hey everybody, Noah from Corporate Streams. In this video, we're going to be learning how to take a green screen and key it with your ATEM Mini.
Be seen, heard, and better understood through virtual gatherings. Elevate your message with Corporate Streams.
The ATEM Mini has a really powerful feature where it can key out a background. As you can see in this particular image, I am using a computer screen, and this is all happening in real time. So I can easily drop myself out, just focus on the screen. I could bring myself in and I could show you what it looks like before the key, and I can show you what it looks like after the key. So all this is happening through the ATEM Mini and the software. So let's go ahead and dive in and look at how this works. And I'll also give you some tips, because if you don't have this set up right, it might look a little weird. You might have some things that key well and some things that don't. So let's go ahead and talk about that now. All right, so the first tip we're gonna talk about is lighting. So I do have an extra little light behind me here. That's actually what's brightening up the green screen. And what you'll notice is there is a shadow, I should say, on this side from me onto the green screen. And so this shadow creates another shade of green. So when you're keying something with green screen, the goal and the hope is to try to have as even as lighting as possible across your green screen. So when you have shadows like this, it makes it harder on the key to work. And so that's why you may see it may not be working well. So let me go ahead and show you, if I key this over a white background, what this would look like. So as you can see, especially in this bottom corner here, you can see that shading, that weird thing happening, right? That's because the color green is not consistent across the whole background. And so when it's not consistent like that, you'll see the shading happening. And so if we go back to the green screen, you'll see there is a really dark patch in this bottom corner here. And so I've added a light. It's not perfect, but it does kind of fill that in and help make it a little bit more even. And you can see up on the top here, you'll see there is a little bit here and a little bit on the bottom. So keep that in mind. That's the first major tip, is try to keep your green screen as evenly lit as possible so that the shade of green is consistent throughout the background. The second tip I'll give you is the spacing. So I, unfortunately, am pretty much right against this backdrop. So I've got about maybe a foot behind me and the green screen. Ideally, it would be about 5 or 7 feet between the subject, which is me, the thing you're keying, and the background. Another thing that will happen with that key is it allows you to have a little bit of depth of field. With depth of field, the camera will focus on you and the background will be a little bit blurry, and so that will help meshes it all together so that it's cleaner between you and the background. So this is what it looks like with the light off. This is what it looks like with the light on. So that does help tremendously. Now, obviously I'm adding a little bit of light onto me, so you gotta keep that in mind. I'm working in a kind of confined space. So depending on your setup, you may have to consider adding lights and doing that as well. So now that we've got everything evenly lit, let's go ahead and jump into the software and look at what we're actually doing for this key to work. So here we are in the software. I went ahead and put myself down here in the corner so you can see me as I'm going through this. The first thing we'll start with is the upstream key. So the upstream key lays on top of, or is above, upstream of the switcher. And so right now the switcher I have is camera 4. If I switch this to color, if I switch this to bars, that would show in the larger image. And then the upstream key, which is me in the small box in the bottom corner, that lays on top. And to affect these parameters, I have to actually turn off the key, which is this button right here. So we're gonna turn off the key, which drops me from the lower third, and that's what allows me to do the Chroma key. The fill source is the camera that I want to key from. So in this case, my camera 1, I'm gonna select 1 here, this is me. That's the camera 1 that I'm gonna be subtracting from or removing the green screen. And again, upstream key, and then program is underneath. So the program feed becomes the background in this case. I could also do this little mini-me setup where I have program, which is camera 1, and then my upstream key, which is also camera 1. So that's why you see a bigger me and a smaller me in the same shot here. Kind of fun. Okay, so here we are again. If you change one of these around, that will affect our background layer, right? Or layer underneath. And then we could, if we had multiple cameras that we could key from, we could also do that in this little section here. For the next few steps, I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself here. So we're gonna select Chroma sample. And what that's gonna do is allow us to select the green through our preview window. So I'm using a teleprompter for my setup here. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I'm looking at. So I have my multi-view here. And then in the preview row, there's a little box. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little box there that I'm gonna be using to select the color green so that I can key. So for you at home, that little box is gonna show up and you can basically move that around until you find the right shade of green to key. I would suggest trying to find a patch or an area that has a little bit of both the shadow and the bright. I've kind of met in the middle there, and then we can tweak the rest of the settings to try to dial this in. Okay, so now that we've selected a green, we could also make it larger, and this will also help when you have different shades of green in there. Then we're gonna make these adjustments. So foreground is gonna be me, or camera 1. Background is gonna be the green. So that's how much we select of the green. So we'll bring that intensity up and down. And then key edge is going to be the in between those two, right? The edge of the key. So you'll have to kind of adjust each one of those layers, but if you've made this box larger and overlapped some of the green there, you should be able to key out pretty well. So I would suggest go ahead and set your program to color 1. And this is gonna bring up a white program, and then we're gonna turn on the key. So you can see myself now. So you're gonna go ahead and adjust the key adjustments. Go ahead and mess with all of those settings until you get the key the way you want. And then once you have that built out, we'll go on to the next step. All right, so I'm locking my key here. We went through and looked at the foreground, the background, and the key edge. And then we also have some chroma correction or color correction. So with the green screen, you have light that bounces off the green screen and could cast a green cast on your skin tones of your subject, which is me in this case. The spill allows us to kind of make up for that green. If we had that completely off, you might see a little bit of green around the edges here. And because we have a pretty good key, it's kind of hard to see that, but just trust me in the sense that there is a little bit of that. And sometimes you'll even have some weird glowiness here, and that's what the flare suppression does. In my case, I don't really need it for this particular shot, so that's totally good. And then we're gonna work our way down here, and we have some color adjustments. So we can do brightness, contrast, saturation, red, green, and blue channels. This key actually looks pretty good to me, so I'm not gonna mess too much with these settings, but depending on your camera, you might wanna spend some time and go through each one of these steps to make sure that it works for you. And now we get to the fun part. So there's a mask and a flying key settings as well. So the mask allows you to cut out an edge or a corner that may not be perfect. So if I turn off my mask, you'll see in this bottom corner here, let me show you what that looks like without my key. So you'll see in this corner, there is a printer, and on this edge, it's the edge of the green screen. So instead of fussing with this and trying to get it perfect, what we can do is turn on the mask. So let me show you what that looks like here. Right now it's turned off. So if I select this, it turns on the mask. And so we could basically dial in a crop essentially. And by default, the right side is 16. So if I bring that down to 14, it'll crop out just that corner. Now you can do this with the bottom, the top, and the sides if you really want to. For me, I just needed that one corner, and now it looks super solid, it looks super clean. Let's move down to flying key. Now this is where it gets fun. Flying key allows you to make this key smaller and put you in the corner or the bottom area. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up an A and a B. We'll kind of hustle through this, and then I'll build myself out, and then I'll show you those moving in real time without any editing on the ATEM Mini. So pretty powerful stuff. Let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so the first thing you wanna do is set the position and the size, and then you can set A or set B. So when you hit set A, it saves it into A, and if you hit set B, obviously it sets it into B. So I went ahead and set up an A, which looks like this. And this is moving it again in real time with the ATEM Mini, not with software. I'll run me to B, which is on the right side of your screen. So that's pretty cool that I can kind of quickly move to the side here or move to this side here. And this moves me in real time, whether it's the full screen button into position B or position A. So that's pretty cool. If you're doing a tutorial or doing something live and you have this all pre-built and pre-set up, you can kind of quickly switch between these and make it look really cool. So you could also set a colored background like I am doing here. This is a light blue that fits within my color scheme of corporate streams. You can also get more complicated by importing a photo and having that as the background. So let's look at that now. What you'll do is go to media at the bottom, and then in stills, you'll import an image. Just make sure that image is a JPEG. So I went ahead and put that into stills 1. So now I can click on media pool 1, and then I can bring myself over this image as the background. And that's how you can add an image for a replacement behind you. Speaking of this awesome picture, this is what it looks like to be on a full set with corporate streams. We have audio, video, and live streaming. And we actually did this same kind of key with an ATEM 2ME. So how crazy is that the keyer in the really expensive $4,000 version and this $300 model is the exact same. So lots of powerful tools at our fingertips now today. Thanks for watching this one. If you want to know if green screen or blue screen works better, stay tuned for our next episode on corporate streams. Subscribe, do that YouTube thing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.